It would be wrong to blame Rachel Notley's NDP government for all of Alberta's woes, but it would be right to blame her government for most of the province's woes since the collapse in oil prices. Following the catastrophic plunge, Rachel Notley's government did two things that would pour salt into Alberta's deepening wounds. First, her government announced an impending royalty review, which they then delayed. This created widespread doubt and negative speculation amongst corporations and investors. Secondly, Notley's government increased Alberta's corporate tax rate by 20%, making it higher than British Columbia's and equal to Saskatchewan's. Since then, investors have turned their backs on Alberta and begun to take advantage of Saskatchewan's lower royalty rates. Unfortunately, that wasn't all. Alberta's socialist nightmare was just beginning.
I want farmers and ranchers to know that this legislation will not prevent neighbors from volunteering to help each other out. And the legislation will not require you to register your children with the WCB. It will give you the option to opt in should you choose to, but it will not require it. It was, however, a mistake that our intentions and these limitations were not included in the text of the bill. They were always intended to be introduced in regulation.
That was Rachel Notley, admitting to Alberta farmers that exclusions in the controversial Bill 6 were never properly explained, but were intended to be a part of the regulation. What Notley failed to mention, however, was the real concerns Alberta farmers had over the costs that Bill 6 would force them to incur. As protests raged on, Notley brushed these real concerns aside and pushed the legislation through without any consultation with farmers. While Albertans and the media were preoccupied with Bill 6, Notley's socialist government was busy making life more expensive for Alberta businesses, with even more damaging legislation. As promised, Notley's government began pushing forward with a new minimum wage legislation. Almost immediately, that legislation began having a negative impact on small businesses across the province. As if catastrophic job losses and a soaring unemployment rate weren't enough, Notley's government had plans to stick the knife in even deeper and give it a twist. As job losses mounted and investors shipped out, Notley's socialist government looked at a carbon tax as a useful remedy for Alberta's deepening recession. The worst part of her government's carbon tax was its effect on Alberta consumers and households. It's estimated that Alberta's new carbon tax will cost the average Alberta household up to $450 in 2017, and even more by 2018. As households and families lose with higher energy and consumer costs, the government is expected to rake in nearly $10 billion over 5 years. Jobless and broke Albertans are now left asking what kind of government would do this to its own people. And then this happened.
Mr. Speaker, they cut the budget for fighting forest fires. They did it. Nobody else did it. They need to take responsibility. This is serious. It's only May, and we can't just hope for wet weather to come around and to help. We need to get these decisions right. In February, a tender was issued for a water skimming air tanker group. On April 29th, this government cancelled the tender. All water skimming aircraft currently contracted are from Abbotsford, BC-based Conair. Can the Premier please explain right now to Albertans why this contract was scrapped and why we are settling for slower, short-range, small, less-capacity water tanker aircraft?
Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, as I have indicated to the member opposite a number of different times, the overall number of resources that will be dedicated to fighting fires are exactly the same as they were before, and in fact they could go up if the need goes up. The fact of the matter is this is about budgeting, how we profile the budget, but we've made it very clear, and all the contractors know full well that when we need them, they need to be there. They are there. They are being hired. Every resource that is required is being dedicated to this fire, Mr. Speaker, and the members opposite should stop the fear-mongering.
The members
If you were looking to buy a few beers to ease your sorrows, don't bother. The NDP found a way to make that more expensive too, with their new beer tax. This is the face of your sorrow. This is the face that is making it harder for you to find a job and to keep food on your table. Make no mistake about it, though, she will do everything to keep her job in 2019. And no, it is not sexist or misogynistic to criticize Rachel Notley and her government. Rachel Notley will try to give her socialist government an advantage in 2019 by expanding the number of unionized workers in Alberta. By tweaking current legislations, the NDP can strengthen Alberta labor unions and expand their influence and sizes across the province. Besides union workers, NDP governments have had a strong showing of support among the public sector and its employees. So far, under Notley's government, Alberta's private sector workforce has shrunk dramatically. But the province's public sector workforce has grown. To expand her voter base in 2019, Notley will quietly increase Alberta's public workforce while offering them higher salaries and unique perks. Come election time, if oil prices rise, her government may even cut one of their new taxes to trick forgetful voters. Whether Notley and her NDP win again in 2019 will be up to Alberta voters. With a divided right ready to unite and two Conservative leaders ready to make it happen, the ball will fall squarely in the voters' court. 2019 is the glimmer of light at the end of this dark tunnel. The next provincial election will give Albertans a chance to say no to more taxes, more debt, more unemployment, and more hardship. In 2019, Albertans will be given a chance to take their province back. If they don't take that chance, it might be too late. Another chance won't come again until 2023, and that's enough time for the NDP to make Alberta's worst times permanent.